when Queen Elizabeth I of England was still embroiled in a fierce struggle for the throne and battles with the Spanish fleet. China had already had a far more legendary female ruler 700 years earlier, Wu Zetian. This woman who entered the palace as a talent at 14 and only ascended to the throne at 67, spent half a century carving out an unprecedented path in an era when women's names were subordinate to their husbands, becoming the only female emperor in Chinese history. Who could have imagined that this emperor, who ruled for over 40 years, was just an innocent young girl when she first entered the palace? In the 11th year of the Zhenguan era, 14-year-old Wu Zetian was selected into Emperor Taizong of Tang's harem and was conferred the title of a fifth-rank talent. Emperor Taizong saw a special heroic spirit in her eyes and gave her the name Wu Mei, but this Mei didn't make her popular in the harem. For 12 years, she remained a talent, rarely seeing the emperor, but she didn't waste her time. While serving in the imperial study, she secretly took note of how Emperor Taizong handled state affairs and managed his ministers. Wu Zetian's fate took a turn. Related to Li Ji, the son of Emperor Taizong, this crown prince had secretly developed feelings for Wu Zetian at his father's bedside. After ascending the throne, he even took the opportunity of offering incense to secretly meet with Wu Zetian, who had become a nun at Ganya Temple. What's even more interesting is that at that time the Empress Wang, in order to deal with her rival consort Xiao, actually took the initiative to propose bringing Wu Zetian back to the harem. Little did she know that this was simply inviting a wolf into the house. After Wu Zetian returned to the palace, she first charmed Li Ji with her gentleness and charm, and then framed Empress Wang with the daughter-killing plot. Her newborn daughter suddenly died. She cried and told Li Ji the Empress just came to see the child, leaving Empress Wang with no way to clear her name. In the 6th year of the Yonghui era, Li Ji went against the opposition of his ministers, deposed Empress Wang, and made Wu Zetian the empress. On the day of the enthronement, she wore the empress's ceremonial robes and accepted the worship of the officials. As her gaze swept over those ministers who had once looked down on her, her eyes revealed an overwhelming desire for power. Li Ji had always suffered from headaches and dizziness, and his eyesight was poor. She began to review memorial documents on his behalf. Starting from just writing for him, she eventually took direct control of state affairs. The ministers gradually noticed that the handwriting on the memorial documents marked as the emperor's own was more and more like the empress's. Later, Li Ji discovered Wu Zetian's ambition and wanted to depose her. The edict had already been written. When Wu Zetian rushed into the palace with her hair disheveled, listing one by one her merits in assisting him, her words were swift and fierce. Li Ji actually felt embarrassed and shifted the blame to Shangguan Yi, who had drafted the edict. Poor Shangguan Yi ultimately became a wronged ghost accused of sowing discord between the emperor and the empress, and his granddaughter Shangguan Wan'er later became Wu Zetian's most trusted female official. The twists and turns of this plot were more dramatic than a play. In her court, there were all kinds of people. Di Renjie could be said to be the pillar of the country. He dared to advise her to her face, "Your Majesty, if you make your son the crown prince, he will be enshrined in the ancestral temple in the future. If you make your nephew the crown prince, I've never heard of an aunt being enshrined in her nephew's ancestral hall." He could also save the lives of the two princes Li Xian and Li Dan when she was furious and wanted to have them killed. The cruel official Lai Junqian invented the inviting you into the jar torture device to help her eliminate opponents. In the end, he was thrown into the jar and burned alive. The male concubine Xue Huai helped her build the Mingdang Hall, but set fire to the Paradise Hall out of jealousy, and was secretly strangled to death in the end. The Zhang brothers Zhang Yiji and Zhang Changzong took advantage of their favor to interfere in state affairs, and ultimately became the trigger for the Xinlong coup. In the first year of the Tianzhou era, 64-year-old Wu Zetian felt that the title of Heavenly Empress was not imposing enough, so she forced her son Li Dan to change his surname to Wu, and became the emperor herself, changing the country's name to Zhou, and establishing the capital in Luoyang. On the day of her enthronement, she wore a dragon robe with 12 patterns that she had designed herself, and accepted the worship of the officials in the Wanxiangshan Palace. She also created the character Ao as her name, meaning the sun and the moon shine in the sky, to make the people accept a female emperor. She came up with quite a few ideas She had monks forge the Great Cloud Sutra, claiming that she was the reincarnation of Maitreya Buddha. She gave general pay raises to the officials, and retired old ministers could receive double salaries. In families where there were 80-year-old elders, the title of Xiangjuan was conferred. By using both carrots and sticks in this way, there was hardly any major upheaval in the court. After all, no one wanted to turn down benefits. As an emperor, Wu Zetian's governing ability was no worse than that of any male emperor. She was the first to introduce the palace examination and the military examination, opening up a path to officialdom for poor scholars. Qin Xiang and Yan Jinqing were both promoted by her. She issued edicts encouraging farming and silk rearing, reducing taxes and corvée labor, and compiled the records of the people's livelihood to guide farmers in cultivation. The granaries in Luoyang were full to the brim, and there was even a scene of grain overflowing with oil. She sent Wang Xiaojia to recapture the 4 garrisons of Anqi and re-establish the Anqi Protectorate in Kecha, ensuring the smooth flow of the Silk Road. When envoys from the western regions came to pay tribute, she pointed to the grapevines outside the hall and said with a smile, "These were introduced from Persia last year, and they're already bearing fruit now." That confident air was as solid as the walls of Chang'an. But her ruthlessness also shocked people. Most of the Li royal family fell victim to her. The Prince of Li Zhen and the Prince of Langia Li Chang rebelled, committed suicide after their failure, and implicated thousands of people. Her own sons Li Hong and Li Xian either died young, or were deposed. Her elder sister, the Lady of Han, and her niece, the Lady of Wei, were also eliminated by her for getting too close to Li Ji. But she also knew how to combine toughness with flexibility. After killing Shangguan Yi, she kept his granddaughter Shangguan Wan'er by her side as a personal attendant. After demoting Chu Suiliang, she preserved his calligraphy for people to copy. When Prime Minister Su Liangxi and Xue Huai argued in the court, and Xue Huai went to complain, she smiled and said, "You enter and exit through the north gate. Just don't meet the Prime Minister and you'll be fine." She protected her male concubine, while not offending the ministers. Wu Zetian's tactful means were as exquisite as the tricolored glazed pottery of Luoyang. In her later years, Wu Zetian hesitated for a long time over the issue of succession. Her nephew Wu Chengxi repeatedly requested to be made the crown prince, and she almost agreed. Fortunately, Di Renjia reminded her, "Your Majesty, if you make your son the crown prince, he will receive offerings in the ancestral temple in the future. If you make your nephew the crown prince..." I've never heard of an aunt being enshrined in her nephew's ancestral hall, she suddenly realized, and brought Li Xian back from exile in Fangzhou, and re-established him as the crown prince. In the first year of the Xinlong era, Zhang Jianji and others launched a coup, killed the Zhang brothers, and forced the 82-year-old Wu Zetian to abdicate. She looked at the sword flashes in the hall, and said calmly, "Well, this throne was originally taken from the Li family. Now I'm just giving it back to them." The next year, she died in the Xianju Palace, leaving behind a wordless stele. This is the most special blank in Chinese history. Let others talk about her merits and demerits. After all, she was already the only female emperor. That was enough. Today, on the site of the Mingtang Hall in Luoyang, the chisel marks from her reign as emperor still remain. Those are not ordinary stones, but proof that a woman overpowered everyone else. In a male-dominated society, Wu Zetian's success planted a seed of courage in the souls of countless oppressed people in feudal society. After her, those women bound by the 3 obediences and 4 virtues suddenly saw another possibility in the cracks of the history books. In the Song dynasty, Lu Yi wore the emperor's robes and ruled the court, and dared to sneer at the advice that a female ruler should not interfere in politics. At the end of the Ming dynasty, Qin Lingyu put on armor and went to battle, making male generals feel ashamed in front of her white pole soldiers. Even when Qiu Jin in modern times wrote with her pen, "Don't say that women are not heroes," the tip of her pen was flowing with the same flame that Wu Zetian had lit in the Wanxiangshan Palace. Such a life, you tell me, is it not spectacular?